I'm only gonna tell you this once.
That is now your chair, Captain.
My friends, the great experiment.
Discovery. Hidden trick.
Would you look at that?
The greatest trick.
And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
The greatest trick.
Welcome to Greatest Trek, the new Star Trek podcast from the makers of The Greatest Generation. I'm Adam Pranica.
I'm Ben Harrison. We're back, baby.
Yeah, back with new Star Trek. I had forgotten most of what had happened in Season 4, I have to admit. I was leaning pretty heavily on that last time on package in this episode.
Yeah.
What about you?
It was a good reminder. It's interesting how much that last time on package didn't have anything to do with like the central story of Season 4 and the 10C and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't anywhere to be found in that last time on package.
Nope.
I saw somebody online saying something about starting a disco rewatch in preparation for the final season. And I was hit with a pang of jealousy because I was like, shit, that's such a good idea, but I don't have time before I start watching for my show.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there was a real appeal to it because we have really come a long way with this show, from the first officer who defies her captain's orders and gets locked up for it at the beginning of Season 1 to where we are now. It's really wild to think back on where this show started and where we are at this point.
I think that would be an interesting exercise to go back to Season 1, Episode 1 and compare these Michael Burnhams.
Yeah.
I don't think they would like each other.
That's interesting. Yeah. And is that like a Thomas Riker, Will Riker wouldn't like each other, or a she has grown in ways that her past self would disapprove of? Because I certainly have. Like I think if like 20-year-old Benjamin R. Harrison met the me of today, he would be profoundly disappointed first and foremost.
I think both forward and reverse for me. Past Adam would be disgusted by what I've become.
Yeah.
And present Adam would feel a sense of humiliation about all the things I'd done in the past. And then also if both present Adam and past Adam could see future Adam, were he to be alive, I think that would also be very troubling for everyone involved.
I think that my criticisms of past self are couched in the kind of naive hubris of past self.
Sheer fucking hubris.
You know, like when I was 20, I thought, well, everything is going to go great for me, so all of my convictions about that are well-founded.
Where did you get that kind of confidence at a young age? Like, the world was such a mystery to me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if it was good to have ambition or not. Like, yeah. I'm just trying to cling to the job that I have at that age.
I think you were smarter than I was because I also didn't understand the world and also had no idea what was going on most of the time, but I did have ambition despite that.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
All of that is to say, like, I think it is natural to observe a character arc in people that we get to know over the course of several seasons of any television show.
Yeah.
But I think...
And people that we don't get to know over the course of several seasons. For example, the bridge crew of the Starship Discovery.
Right. And I think this season is going to be an interesting exercise in figuring out whether or not, because this is its final season, whether or not there is an effort toward finally creating an actualized character out of our main character and the rest of the folks that inhabit this universe.
Yeah. I am curious to get started. Do you want to jump right into this a here episode, Adam?
Let's start ending this series now.
I mean, behind the mic, we've been having a shitload of technical problems today we've stopped and started this record. I mean, it's going to sound seamless. It's going to sound great because unlike me, our producer is a pro who can actually take care of business, but getting started stopping kind of feels like exactly what I want to do right now.
Let's start the beginning of the end of Star Trek Discovery, Ben. It's Season 5, Episode 1, Red Directive.
You know the greatest danger facing us is an irrational fear of the unknown.
Let's fly.
The uncertainty.
Which begins with a Discovery-specific logo treatment. Every new Star Trek is going to get one of these, obviously.
Yeah.
We got our hero ship blurping into the screen and then drawing the outline of the insignia. And then the recap.
I'm surprised that they didn't just cut to the Burnham and Giorgio walking on insignia in the sand. Like,
I know.
Just use that. You already did it. It was bad, but you did it.
Yeah. This recap, given what it decides is of importance, like, I think you could take or leave this.
Sure.
This doesn't have a whole lot to do with the episode that we experience right after. It's, Book took a spore drive and then exploded a bomb, got in big trouble for it, and then the Federation's punishment is basically Habitat for Humanity.
Right.
Why, the very name is racist.
So he's off building low-cost housing for Fugees and not seeing Michael Burnham anymore.
We got Trina wanting to make Taru official. And then Tilly accepting the job at Starfleet Academy.
Right.
That is the recap, and we are into our cold open where we encounter a cloaked ship at warp. And who is that? Riding it like a giant steed.
Who indeed, Adam? Who could be this spacesuited individual trying to bust into a ship at warp? Of course it's Michael Burnham.
You know, she rides on top.
Yeah.
And she is not panicked. And there is one character comparison that I couldn't get out of my head starting now and throughout the episode. And I think it is the thing that unlocks Michael Burnham, maybe forever for me. Michael Burnham is Spider-Man. Because all of her dialogue is Peter Parker dialogue. She's making fun of her situation. She is in grave danger, but never emoting that danger in any kind of way. She's kind of narrating her life in that Spider-Man / Peter Parker kind of way.
Yeah, but also in that the pilot episode of a 90s sci-fi TV show kind of way.
Yeah.
Wow, so she's your friendly neighborhood Starfleet captain, huh?
I think she is.
Wow. So this is seems to be a dangerous and hair-raising, high-stakes adventure she's on. And we cut to 4 hours earlier, a big cocktail reception with fancy craft cocktails. And this is celebrating the 1,000-year anniversary of the Federation. That's a pretty good run.
Hey, Federation, is this your idea of a 1,000-year birthday party? I love the drinks.
It's one of those things where you cut to the wide shot in the club scene in any TV show and it just never looks like a nightclub. Like the club scene at the beginning of the Miami Vice movie is like one of the few times a club scene has really looked like a club, where it's just like jam-packed with people. It's too loud to hear anything.
You know what they say about that movie, Ben? The club scene is kind of a character in the film. That's what Michael Mann does.
This party is not lit.
You know why it's not lit? Because Culber and Stamets brought their kid to the party. They're the sort of parents that take their kids everywhere. And there's Adira not understanding a craft cocktail.
I don't get it.
I mean, Adira appears to be old enough to enjoy a craft cocktail.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, probably still of an age where they probably should just be putting like 151 rum in Mountain Dew and, you know, sneaking off to like a public park after dark to drink it with their no good friends.
Adira is the experimental type in most other ways besides conventional kid or adolescent stuff, you know? Adira should be getting in all kinds of trouble. You're right.
I'm mad that we haven't been invited to some kind of premiere party featuring this cocktail, because we have gotten to do a couple of Star Trek Industrial Complex premiere events, and they have had signature cocktails, and this is a technique that is doable.
Is this a sugared rim on this thing?
It might be a sugared rim.
It looks like the sort of sugared rim that isn't like just rim. It's wetted down a side of the glass and then blomped into a pile of sugar.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, it's the way I like a margarita, like salt 1/2 of the glass.
Yeah, give me the option.
Exactly. That makes it easy.
Yeah, I do kind of take exception to the server popping the bubbles with her finger. Like, that seems gross, right? Like, if we're picking up pastries at a coffee shop with a piece of paper intermediating the fingies and the croissant, should we really be putting raw fingies on the cocktail bubble?
And look at how much alcohol you're putting in each drink. It's going over the top of the glass. You're pouring away your profits.
You're not gonna last another 1,000 years if you pour your profits down the drain like this.
Look at all the foam sticking to your server's fingers. That's $40 a foam.
The non-binary children in this room are being overserved.
Did you check Adira's ID? Of course not. You're gonna get us shut down.
Stamets is having a bum out because the Spore Drive program has been shut down and they're putting the other kind of FTL drives in the fleet.
What am I supposed to do? Walk around, shake hands, and pretend I'm happy that the pathway drive went up? Yes.
He has been, it seems like, formally demoted to Luminary. That's like on his name tag. How'd you like that, Adam? Luminary. You're a podcast luminary. I think you could have that on your name tag.
Am I?
Yeah.
This scene was another example of how ubiquitous the What Was I Made For Billie Eilish song is right now. I cannot believe they paid the money to put it in this scene, because Stamets kind of stares into the middle distance. He kind of sees a life ahead without really a lot of purpose. Without the Spore Drive, what is he even?
It kind of feels like they just said out loud what Stamets' character arc in season 5 is going to look like.
It's a new world, Paul, and you will find new purpose.
It's a weird angle for him and for anyone in Starfleet, really, to like think of themselves with such importance that like the greater good isn't really what Stamets is about here.
I mean, but also, you know, Living Legend was kind of a hard mantle for Picard to wear, so
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And he's off the market. Like, Living Legend is probably pretty foxy to a random.
Totally.
But he's got attachments.
Sure, but, you know, most homosexual male relationships are open to some degree, right? So he's probably got something going on the side.
I'll let you be the subject matter expert of that, Ben.
I just read these things. I'm not saying this is my opinion. I think that's like a pretty widely accepted statistic.
When Burnham gets called away to do some diplomatic bullshit, Sonequa Martin Green gets that moment to do the prom smile that's all mouth and no eyes. Like, there isn't anything she can't do as an actor. And this was like one of those reminders, like, oh yeah, like, she hates this, that she has to do diplomatic shit, and she's letting her beloved crew know that she does in a very subtle way.
Mm-hmm. Duty calls.
Tilly also excuses herself because she has to go see about a hunk, and then the camera finds Saru and Trina dancing together and touching hands, and just that hand is just in the shot so much. And he has a job offer to be an ambassador now, but it would entail resigning from Starfleet. And so he is trying to think this over with his special lady friend Trina while they're having their nice night out, which is never a good time to be wading into the heavy shit. Just enjoy your night out and then like set up some time to talk about a serious thing later. Saru?
You don't see any daylight between them on the dance floor. And that's because it looks like the bump and grind is happening in earnest. Ben, I wonder if any part of his body senses the coming of coming in a moment like this.
You can think of something else that's about the same color and opacity as threat ganglia that might be coming soon.
Yeah, does he have rope ganglia?
They come out and then go back in?
Would you like to know more? Yes, I would like to know more.
Would you look at that?
We make bets all the time on our shows and never remember that we made them. But I would like to at least get your prediction. How many times left for Saru to shoot ganglia darts at people in Discovery? Because we don't have much left.
Oh, that was so cool.
I mean, I feel like he's got to do it at least once a season. Like, it's got to happen one more time, minimum, right?
This isn't his story anymore. This isn't Warrior Saru.
Yeah. Ambassadors shooting darts at people tend not to stay in their positions for very long.
Yeah. I don't think that's his story. He's shooting different darts from this point forward. That's what I think.
Trina advises him to make a logical choice about his career trajectory that does not factor his relationship into it. Classic trap.
I mean, the real life comparison is all around us. This is a warning. If it's early in a relationship and there's an opportunity to maybe prematurely make a life decision that brings two people closer, involving a sacrifice of something else. I mean, when one of those people is like, whoa, maybe slow down a bit. That's not always a good sign, right?
It is not, unless that person is testing you. And that really felt like what was going on here.
I mean, if your special person was logical, maybe there are no games of that kind. Maybe that's just cold, brutal logic.
That would be really fucking nice. Michael Burnham gets this cool infinity trinket, and she and Admiral Guy urging me to put my money into an index fund rather than try to bet on individual stocks. Go meet with Dr. Kovich in what is called the Infinity Room.
Can I ask you something? Let's just say that Admiral Random Guy in a testosterone commercial that stars Frank Thomas gives you the thing, like the Infinity Jewel or whatever we're calling it. You're putting that on your fingers, right? Like if someone hands it to you and you don't know what it is, how is that not the first thing you do? Like, oh, what's that?
It looks like a ring that goes on two fingers.
It looks like infinite brass knuckles or whatever. Like you're putting them on your fingers. I thought that was bizarre.
Yeah, it just gets handed around, like, and nobody hangs on to it.
You don't make a thing finger size unless you're putting it on fingers.
Yeah.
A bit theatrical for my taste, but some like that sort of thing.
So Kovich tells them that there's this 800-year-old thing that they need to go get that is vital to the security of the Federation, and now they know where it is. And Michael Burnham's like, can you tell me anything other than go get a thing? And he's like, I really can't. I wish I could. This is a red directive. And she's like, are you fucking seriously like two men that pulled me into a room to tell me, a woman, when my red directive is?
Elsewhere on the ship, Tilly is also getting a red directive at exactly the same time from their history as roommates. This is not out of character for Kovich, who says very little at any given time.
No answers to the questions, and it seems like neither of them is getting any answers from Kovich. But learning that it's a red directive is enough for Michael Burnham to stop trying. So she heads to the bridge of the disco, and hey, it's our crew. Miss these guys.
This is one of two scenes in this episode where most bridge crew stations get a line. In this scene, it's just checking in. In the next scene later on in the episode, everyone just gets a chance to say, I Saru, or whatever. I say this with love. We both do.
Yeah.
I think what this show does to its other characters is really too bad.
Yeah, I want to know them better.
They go all the way to Toronto. They spend months there. They get put into loaf and uniforms, and they get 4 lines an episode that sound just like, aye, sir.
Yeah. I just want more stuff for them to do.
Yeah.
So Michael Burnham gives a little bit of a mission brief. They're going to a debris planet that is uninhabited, but probably there's lots of dangerous bad guys nearby. And we cut to this planet. We cut to the ship, and it is that like Romulan shuttle design that we used to see in your occasional TNG episode.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Looks good for 800 years old.
And I thought, I mean, like, you're talking about Billie Eilish. Like, I thought it was really cool that the actual Daft Punk is in this episode and they are on this ship.
They take their helmets off just as soon as possible, because who wants to wear a helmet more than 1 minute? These folks hate helmets, and when they take them off and shake off their hair, they are beautiful. Wow! Look at them!
I think it was just the confidence of not having the helmet on, you know?
We find out later that this is Maul and Lack. And Maul is the lady person. Lack is a person who looks like a first season Klingon, like an albino Klingon. But later when we look at this guy's file, alien type is like not specified. And Maul is human.
Yeah, and Lack, when he first takes his helmet off, looked a little see-through to me, like he's kind of a Slimer person.
Oh,
maybe.
Interesting.
So, curious to see what kind of alien stuff he can do with his weird loaf.
They seem to be a couple also with the way they talk to each other. Like a romantic couple, I mean.
Yeah, they're in love.
Uh-huh.
They also don't seem to know what is on this ship, but they know that Starfleet doesn't want them to have it. So
we get a flashback scene here of Maul and Locke from years ago where Locke is like, hey, I've got an opportunity to take a piracy job on the ship you've got. And I don't know, like, are we in a place where I could take that seriously or whatever?
I just want to know, like, how long-term of plans I should be thinking about. You know, like, obviously, like, we're going skiing next weekend, and that's, like, something that we can pretty much count on still being together for. But, like how long out should we start to be thinking here?
Yeah, and Maul says exactly the same thing Trina says in that scene with Saru. And then we're back in the present.
Yeah. It does seem like she is the more ambitious one. Like, it seems like they've stolen a bunch of shit from this ship already, and Lack is kind of like, all right, let's go. And she's like, no, there's something like big that Starfleet doesn't want us to get.
What do pirates wear? Do they wear pantaloons? She wears the pantaloons in the relationship, doesn't she? She's making all the decisions.
She wears the peg leg in the relationship?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Disco pops into orbit and notices that there's 2 life signs that then disappear. And Kovic is like, I don't give a fuck what happens to Daft Punk. Go down there, like, weapons hot, and get that thing that I'm not going to tell you what it is.
It just kind of seems unnecessary now to say, kill whoever you find there in order to get this thing.
Yeah.
Lethal force has been authorized.
Yeah. So Reese, Owo, and Burnham are the away team that beams over, and they start in the room that Daft Punk was in, and they find a dead Rom in cat basket uniform, like period appropriate uniform.
Really interesting choice made here that this Rom died side sleeping.
Yeah.
You normally always encounter the body like sleeping on their back, like arms crossed,
right,
or whatever.
Or like the Alien on LV-426, where he's like in his crash couch, like reclining a little bit.
I've been trying to be more of a back sleeper because I am a side and stomach sleeper mostly. If and when my body is found, Ben, unfortunately, it will be on my face and stomach.
Yeah, same.
Looking like I fell off of a building into bed.
Years ago, I heard somebody on a radio show saying something about like if you have a baby, like try to teach them from an early age to sleep on their back because then like when they go on like a transcontinental flight, they'll be able to actually sleep in the chair.
Well, I mean, why are we even messing with the sleeping on the back? You should get people trained about sleeping in chairs.
Just teach them to sleep in an airplane chair.
Yeah.
Get an airplane chair in your house and that's your crib.
Ben, did you register for airplane chair? I don't remember if you did.
I mean, I heard this, at some point in my 20s probably, and was like, great idea. I will, if I ever have a child, like file that away and remember to, no fucking way that's happening. My child sleeps exactly the same way I do.
Yeah.
But I do envy the back sleepers because the world is your bed if you sleep on your back. Any horizontal surface
really true
can be your bed.
Yeah, that'll never be us.
No.
That is now your chair, Captain.
It's a new ship.
There is a vault on this ship that used to be cloaked, and it's uncloaked and empty now. And combined with the idea that there is some spittle in the air, it all seems pretty clear that the pirates are still on board.
Yeah. So the away team heads toward this other room where the vault is, and they open it up, and nothing's in there. Then they get in a firefight, and Reese and Owo get caught in like giant gumdrops, it looked like.
Owo has a very unusual line read here. For when she's trapped. I played this back a couple of times. I think it is unintentionally funny here, what happens.
Captain, I can't move.
Neither can I.
Be right back.
Like an actor almost like rolling their eyes at the script that they're being asked to deliver.
If you bet that Michael Burnham would not be one of the entrapped crew people, that was like a minus 1 million favorite in this scene. She sets out for the pirates, and immediately the pirates reveal themselves to be GoldenEye enthusiasts because one of them has a timer mine in the palm of their hand, and they are so cool and so confident in this scene. They are not worried about anything. This mine gets dropped into the floor.
I'd be worried if I was going up against a Michael Burnham that has a gun that can do this. Did you see this where like her pistol goes from pistol to rifle?
It's pretty great.
Just because she wants it to?
Yeah.
Phasers? Big phasers?
Amazing.
Yeah.
But they blow her out of the ship with this timer mine.
What sucks is that she disappears and respawns, and then a proximity mine gets her at the respawn spot. And then she respawns again, and another one gets her. This is what's so fucked up about the facility.
It is, but like anything to hear that pause music for a little bit longer. So yeah, this is kind of right where we pick back up with where we started the episode, because she sees their cloaked ship and kind of grabs on to it before they go to warp, and now we are back in that warp stream with Michael Burnham Spider-Maning on top. And there is an added element this time through this part of the episode, because the USS Antares is also there. And she is having a comms argument with Captain Rayner while she is trying to stop this ship from being in warp so that she can recover this artifact.
We see all the time how future FaceTime communications go in Star Trek Discovery. It involves a person holo projected into the room you're in. How badly did you want Rayner to appear on the hull of this ship? While Michael is freaking out doing her things. She's using a hand weapon to disable this ship. That seems like an impossibility.
Yeah.
But The Antares has got this pirate ship in its tractor beam, and Michael Burnham wants them to shut it off, because if they don't, it's mutually assured destruction.
Right. Captain Rayner's kind of playing a game of chicken with these pirates, and Burnham wants to just disable their ship so that they drop out of warp. They're sort of at warp bubbleheads, and he has a history with these two. Kovich on the bridge of the Discovery is really pissed that this is not going smoothly and that they haven't recovered this device.
Just imagine if all of them were holo projected onto the hull of the ship having this argument. Give me that scene. Make it absurd.
Finally, Rayner is persuaded to release his beam, and Burnham jumps off the hull of this ship, and it releases a bunch of little warpies, and they all kind of like warp away with the ship. And now Kovich is even more pissed, and Rayner's pissed too. Like everybody's pissed at Burnham for having failed to stop these guys when she had a chance.
This is one of the coolest ideas that I've encountered in Star Trek in quite a while. And I love future tech ideas informed by modern weapons. Like the idea of a fighter jet having countermeasures to throw off a heat-seeking missile, for example,
right.
is familiar in a scene like this because these are warp countermeasures. This ship drops these, all of the countermeasures go to warp, and then the ship goes to warp, thus obscuring the path of where the ship is gone. It's great.
It's so cool. It's cool upon cool, because also the scene where she transitions back onto the disco, she's like tumbling through space, and she transports like 4 feet, just the width of the hull section with the view screen in it, and walks back and plops down in her chair. It's a great little moment.
I love how winded she is too. Like so often on, and I'm talking about like across all of Star Trek, the conclusion of a mission is followed by an intermediate scene having nothing to do with it. So you never get like the exhalation of your stress, the moments exactly after a conflict, the way you do here. I liked seeing it.
It's great. So Kovich wants to know what her plan is for catching up with these guys, because they can't track the 20 different warp signals down. You know, they got to pick one and go for it. She's like, okay, well, you know, I do know somebody that could help. And that is Cleveland Booker back aboard Starship Discovery. And, happy to see her, but also shit's tense between them.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I like Book, and I like the actor who plays him. But this episode presumes that we are on the same level as Book and Michael Burnham, in that his reemergence is something heavy that will make us feel something. So much time has passed, so much tension is there. But it doesn't work because Book has never left us.
Right.
Book is always around. Book was in the last episode of season 4. So we don't get the moment of missing him that is crucial to having a reuniting of the two characters in this scene. Like, the music swells and they look at each other and they're both so beautiful and obviously in love. But I'm like, I don't feel any of that because we never had a chance to miss him.
Yeah, it's like having had such a long run of other stuff and nothing in between the last season of Disco and this, like we had, I think, basically all of the other series air in between the last season of Disco and this, and then a long, long break on top of that. The immediacy of their conflict in the previous season has worn off, but the pangs of missing him haven't set in that way. And like, yeah, I kind of agree that it would have been nice to have like 2 or 3 episodes without him, and with us spending time with Michael Burnham, feeling that absence to make this moment feel more special. And I kind of wonder if they thought, well, you know, it'll have been 18 months since anybody's seen these characters, so they will miss him the way she misses him. But yeah, I'm not sure it quite works.
Yeah. So they take their conversation to a corridor, and Burnham wants Book's help finding the right warp signature of this 20 of them that just blurped in space. And are you clear about why he would be better at this than the computing power of the entire future Federation? Because he makes it pretty clear he's only there because the Federation ordered him to. He's like the Marshawn Lynch of the Federation. He's just there so he doesn't get fined.
Right.
Y'all can shoot if y'all please.
And this also does another thing to their relationship, which is it makes it clear that he's not there to fuck. Like, I'm here for work.
Right.
I'm not here to see you.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it is that knowledge that he has from his courier days of like who on what planet might be interested in the shit that Maul and Locke are selling that helps him narrow it down. I don't know why the Federation wouldn't have this kind of information, but
it's so
I guess it's because they've been cut off for so long, right? Like
we find out in the very next scene during this post-mission MacGuffin group.
Issue 1.
Where Rayner like introduces them to Maul and Locke, and they sound cool as hell. And then the idea of the Romulan puzzle box is introduced, and they don't know what's inside it. But when Book finally Sherlock Holmeses the warp trails, he uses the most basic deductive reasoning to narrow things down. He's like, well, if you got a Romulan thing that's old, you're not going to want to fence it in Federation space. And that removes like 80% of the possibilities. It's like, all right, well, that leaves this one and this guy. And I know this guy is particularly interested in ROM stuff. And that's it. That was easy.
Fred wants it. That's what he is there to deliver.
Yeah.
And Admiral gets a pedicure every week from one of those leather chair and scotch tumbler nail salons that doesn't threaten your masculinity. Tells Michael Burnham to work with Captain Rayner on this mission.
Yeah. Kamal is the planet that Fred is on.
Dealer there loves the old stuff.
And that is where they head together.
Hey! Cheaters don't deserve Nausicaan Latinum!
This ship and her history will shortly become the care of another crew. They will continue the voyage just we have begun. The greatest trick.
Saru comes up with an idea because Michael Burnham is still kind of annoyed that she and like basically everybody in the Federation that isn't Dr. Kovich are being kept in the dark about what's in the box.
What's in the fucking box?
Saru suggests that Tilly might be able to figure this out because she has access to databases that may have been intentionally cut off from Discovery. So they talk about sending that request off, and then Burnham brings up the fact that Saru is considering a job offer. This is always awkward when your boss is the one to bring up the fact that you may be moving on before you've worked up the courage to float that as a possibility.
Saru, is this your idea of ambition? You got to keep it to yourself, man. You really do. The fact that his shit is out on Maine.
Yeah.
President Rillick spoke with you?
She'd be lucky to have you.
I mean, I feel like the president did him dirty in blabbing to Michael Burnham about this. Like,
yeah,
she's very encouraging. She's like, I'll miss you, but you'll be really great at it.
But just think of how often you'll miss every single bridge crew person saying, yes, Mr. Saru to you.
Yeah.
In a given scene.
True. This next scene blew my mind because it made me realize that party that we left has been going this whole time. Like, Tilly has been hanging, she's been hunk hanging and getting drunk this entire time.
She's hunk drunk.
This guy is dreamy.
Yeah, the guy she had eyes for at the party has walked her back to recorders, and I love Mary Wiseman in this scene. The act drunk is exquisite.
It really is.
She's so good at this.
Cool. No. Yeah, no. Sorry, shut up, Champagne.
She's so good at looking like she's thinking. Like, my favorite type of acting happens between the dialogue, right? Like, she's working it out in her head, like how defensive she needs to be about being open to a romantic interest. And ultimately, like, she just clamps it down and walks him out. But like that moment where she turns it around in her head, how far she wants to go in this moment, I just love.
It's so good. I mean, this is probably not the best night to get naked with each other, given the like inebriation factor and the first night of it factor.
Yeah.
That seems to be at play here. But like they definitely are both thinking about it, but not talking about it in this really fun way.
Is it warm in here?
I don't know. Is it? Is it warm in here?
I mean, for her, the tension is the juice. On the edge, where she's got to be.
But I did feel kind of bad about Michael Burnham calling her up and going like, hey, can you hack into the mainframe when Tilly was in a suggestible state of mind like this? You know?
Is coffee really the best we can do 800 years in the future in order to sober up?
Fuck! Even in the future, nothing works!
Seems that way.
So we cut to this this Tatooine vibe planet where Fred lives. And I really liked the establishing shot of this city and the bazaar that they're walking through to try and find Fred.
It really seems like an open air market where John Rambo would buy a blue light for a mission he's going on later.
What does it do? Turns blue.
It surely has those vibes. We learn a little bit more about how Michael Burnham and Book have been kind of both not talking to each other semi-intentionally, like both going like, I wonder when they're going to call me, and never once thinking I should call them. Rayner arrives a little bit later. I love the subtext of Rayner a little bit hating Michael Burnham because she has a better spaceship than him also.
Yeah. I mean, Rayner is in a bunch of this episode and he is just hitting dingers in every scene.
He really is.
He is fast becoming a favorite.
Maul and Locke find Fred, who is a Soong-type android, and I really liked his weird dialogue and the way Fred expresses himself, the weird gimp mask muscle men that Fred surrounds himself with.
Pardon my friends here as they remove any weaponry from your possession. They are quite protective of my being.
Fair enough.
Everything about Fred's deal was appealing to me.
Fred took one linguistics class and now it's his identity. Like, it was an elective in college, Fred. It's not supposed to be your fucking major.
Just because you know the difference between a fricative and an implosive doesn't make you smarter than everybody.
When you speak in plosives, it's very grating for the customer.
Instead, just put the whole menu on the wall, and then you don't have to listen to your stupid voice.
So Fred checks out the goods, and the most interesting good of all of them is this puzzle box. And sure as shit, he can open it up right away. He's great at these things.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle box of the kind that you used to get as a little kid, like the plastic square where you slide the little mini squares around.
Yeah, they would give you this on like an airplane if you're a kid, because that was like what passed for entertainment in the 90s.
Because for some reason, looking out a window at 30,000 feet isn't exciting enough for a little kid.
So I thought that this prop was great. Like it really stood up to the extreme close-up in a way that not every television prop could.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also just so refreshed that in season 5 of Discovery, they introduced a MacGuffin that then they like opened up and revealed what was inside of it, like almost immediately.
If this were season 3, Fred would be unable to open it, and they would go planet to planet, episode after episode, trying to open it.
It would be like 6 out of the 10 episodes of the season. Us just wondering.
In the 10th episode, the burn would be inside. I love this take by Fred because he opens it up, he reads the book in a very Data kind of way, and the temperature in the room changes immediately. He lowballs Maul and Lack over it, and they take great umbrage with the lowball, but also the anxiety that Fred seems to be feeling in this moment.
Yeah, interesting. And he says he's seen a box like this 600 and something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So like Fred has been around long enough to have like the kind of context that you might need to know what this is.
Is Fred chumleying Mole and Lack here?
I'd have been selling these on the black market for big bucks.
Fred is going to need to like bring in a friend of his who's an expert on this type of book.
They always do this.
Oh, man. One way being super into antiques can bite you in the ass is when a great big Star Trek fight breaks out in your office because you try to steal the relic that somebody was selling to you.
Yeah.
Your ancient weapon doesn't fire when you need to shoot the bad guys.
Okay, here's a question. Does Fred feel emotion? Because there's a moment when he tries to discharge his firearm where he seems frustrated and even scared in that moment.
Yeah, it does feel, I mean, he also feels anxiety. So I think he does.
Yeah.
Or did, because they fucking kill him.
Yeah.
He nails Mole with a stun, and Locke does not like that one bit and shoots the fuck out of him. And then they both shoot the fuck out of him.
And then they both kind of squat on his dead body after.
Yeah.
Very robotically.
Pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
But, that's what kids do these days.
They're into video games. Like, they like the Prox Mines, and they love the post-death squat.
The Starfleets show up at the crime scene and find all of the deads. They beam Fred's body up to the ship. Stamets and Culber are like doing I guess it's not really an autopsy, but they're standing over the body, like looking at it and talking about how they're going to be able to, load stuff out of Fred's memory with all of the weird old crap that Stamets collects. And I liked Stamets kind of waxing poetic about the way the name Soong rings out throughout history. Like, it's sort of, it again, a little bit feels like they're just saying out loud what Stamets is going to be all about this season. But I don't know. I liked it for him.
What I want Stamets and Culber to be about all season is Culber slowly arriving at the realization that he will not be able to get rid of Stamets because you're a doctor in 6 Bay. What are you doing there, Stamets? Like, go home. This is a little suffocating, I think.
Yeah. Meanwhile, down on the planet, a motorcycle chase gets set off, and they're going through the desert on these like sand motorcycles. They seem to have wheels, right? They're not like hover bikes.
It looks like they touch the ground.
Yeah, so Mole and Locke are being chased by the Starfleets and, I guess Book and the Starfleets. It's the two captains and Book chasing them. We cut back to Federation headquarters where Tilly sort of seems like she's about to get in a shitload of trouble with Starfleet security, except for Admiral Dean of Academics comes and covers for her because he is also really curious about what Dr. Kovich is up to.
Admiral Intense Guy from a mail order Viagra commercial. He kicks security out of there. He wants to look at those tax documents as much as she does.
Oh, man.
Is he the person that finally does the keystroke that unlocks the secret? I think he is, isn't he?
He was like, he says the thing about like, oh, it's a shame I like wasn't here in time to stop you from doing this or whatever.
God, he's so cool.
Yeah, he's the best.
It's pretty good for shit.
Dr. Velik appears.
Yeah.
That's like what the code reveals, and it's an old breadbox era ROM.
This is Dr. Velik. I'm the critical systems are offline.
This file's pretty busted, so you can only make out a couple of the things that he says, but like the main points are he's got something powerful, something about 2 moons, and it'd be really bad if what he knew fell into the wrong hands. And also, I can watch you masturbate, which is kind of like a weird addition to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like amazing that part doesn't glitch out,
Why is that the not glitchy part?
Yeah.
Crystal clear fidelity.
But he's at great pains to say that like the full scope of his knowledge as a scientist, is in this book that he's putting in this box so that it can survive after his death. Meanwhile, the motorcycles are tearing up through the sand, chasing the bad guys who get back on their ship, and their ship was like hidden under a dune, and when it takes off, it starts shooting at them. And these motorcycles have shields. Like,
yeah,
they're getting fired on by a starship and taking the hits.
Which is what makes the companion scene of like the dad and little kid riding dirt bikes out in the sand so weird. It's like the dirt bikes they've rented from the stand in the tourist town to go ride the dunes. Like, these bikes can take fire from starships. They seem really over-engineered. Like, the deposit you need to put down to rent one of these, you need like 2 credit cards.
Yeah, minimum. We learn that these mountains outside of town have tunnels, and Maul and Locke are trying to get into these tunnels rather than go to orbit, because obviously 2 Federation starships in orbit that could make their lives challenging if they went to orbit. And they left a bomb in the mouth of the tunnel so that when they go into the hole, they can close it behind them. And a debate opens up between Captain Rayner and Captain Burnham about what to do about this, because like if they shoot the hole closed, I guess the concern is there's a 30% chance that an avalanche will destroy the town.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why is this dialogue? There is a Dan Savage amount of exposition here, which is like they describe the caves and the bomb at the entrance of one. They describe that that's where the ship is headed. And then we basically see that scene happen right after. Why are we fucking around with dialogue here?
I liked that it made me understand Maul and Locke a little bit more as a threat, because they like pre-planned their escape. Like, they were not the chaos actors that walk into a sale and don't like the terms and just like kill everybody and leave. Like, they kind of knew that they were walking into potentially a trap.
But like that first scene that shows like, you know, the ship spinning off its warp trails to escape, I like being surprised about how smart they are in the moment, instead of like being pre-surprised, which can get you pregnant and also ruin the surprise of what happens after. Like, give me more Maul and Locke surprise about their capabilities.
What I did like was the 3-way split screen between Book, Burnham, and Rayner arguing this over. And Book is like, I just want to stay out of it, man.
There's a 4th panel of like Tilly at home dealing with her hangover. Like the 5th panel where the dad and the son have finally rented the dune buggies, and are like, God, that took like an hour. How they needed my whole credit history for this? This is just supposed to be an afternoon of fun.
A 6th split screen where the Admiral is in a bathtub next to another bathtub with an age-appropriate lady, and it's like these 2 bathtubs are like on a cliff overlooking a beautiful view somehow.
A 7th panel where Stamets finally fucks out of sickbay and Culber's like, God, I thought he would never leave. Like, is this what my life is now? Stamets really needs some sort of goal or hobby.
So no one captain having been given command of the mission means that Rayner can go freelance whenever he wants, and there's not really anything Burnham can say about it.
Yeah.
So he orders his ship to fire on the hole. It collapses the hull without triggering an avalanche, but then the pirates are like, hey, great idea, guys, and they shoot a photon torpedo at the mountain that does trigger an avalanche. And then there's a whole other argument about what to do about this avalanche that is going to take out the town and all of the innocent civilians. I was reminded that Zora is also still aboard Discovery in this moment, going like, yeah, bad news, everyone's gonna die, no ideas here. But Stamets and Adira work the problem a little bit, and they come up with 2 starships blocking the avalanche-based plan to avert disaster. And Rayner doesn't want to do it because it will come at the cost of them losing the bad guys. And this is when I was like, fuck, like, why did Book come aboard not with his ship? If he had his ship, like, they could just send third ship after the bad guys and it'd be fine. Where's Book's ship?
Doesn't it also seem as though Rayner's ship has a separatable saucer?
Ooh.
Because it's not, like, it's nacelles and its star drive and its saucer, I think, are all kind of floaty.
Yeah, he's got quad nacelles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun how the town thinks they're about to be Independence Day'd when these two ships appear above it?
It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the like scope of these effects is so cool. Like the action sequences in this episode were best in class stuff, and it was so exciting to watch this whole thing.
This poor dad and kid are out on the path of this avalanche, and it's like, not only have they handed over several credit cards and like kind of a lot of collateral for these motorbikes, they're also about to be buried under 1 million pounds of sand. And that's just not how you make a memory with your kid that you're trying to connect with.
No, come on. After this divorce, this is what we get?
Discovery pivots directly into like this dad and kid, and we never meet another bridge crewman again.
No.
The entire season.
It's all about like the times when he has custody, just trying to like make a meaningful connection because he didn't even get halftime. Like he's getting every other weekend, and so he really like has to pull out all the stops to stay relevant in this kid's life.
What's Michelle Paradise trying to work out here?
The greatest trick.
So needless to say, they save the town, but they lose their quarry. Captain Rayner blips out of there, leaving Burnham and Book to, sit on motorcycles together and comment on how the energy between them is a little bit awk.
Don't you wish, Ben, you were just talking about how great this effect was, and it was. But like, in those seconds after the two ships have dug in and we're with Michael and Book on their cycles, I still want the scale of that. Like, why aren't they in proximity to the ship sufficient to show us that scale? This is the one part of that effect that I didn't like, is that we pan by the two ships dug in for like 4 or 5 seconds, but there's nothing in the frame to show us the scale of that. This is the thing about that Star Trek Generations saucer crash that was so cool, which was like, how big a tree is. You see the wide shot of that saucer, it is like jaw-dropping. But with these two saucers in the sand, and all you have are like the spikes of the stones sticking out. Like,
we don't know how big those are.
I wanted to be in awe of this, and I think it's Michael and Book that could have done that if they're like in the shadow of the two ships.
Totally. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Tilly calls Michael Burnham with an update. I mean, I couldn't tell if it was an update on the information that she found with the Admiral or January 6th. It just ends with "will be wild."
Michael's like, "Who's that I hear in the background?" And Tilly's like, "Yeah, it's this Romulan guy, and he won't leave." I turned on his program, and now we're together. That's all I can tell you.
And like, speaking of like 70-30 ratios, like you can understand about 70% of what this guy says, but then it's all just like blurry gibberish the other 30% of the time.
I need to get rid of this guy before that other guy I like stops by.
You think we're going to do it in this room while the Romulan guy is just standing there?
The guy knocks and he's like, Oh, I didn't know you had guests. Oh, I see how it is. You're into ROMs.
Were you like mad at him? Is that why the party?
Oh, I see you're into like dress ups where the guy wears like an old Romulan bread box costume. That's how you get down. Huh.
Are you LARPing? Is this LARPing?
Yes.
Good. Great.
Very much. Okay.
Well, cool.
Bye.
Saru is going to become the ambassador, and Trina pops the question the second he tells her what his career choice has been.
This is equivalent to Michael Burnham floating into space and then arriving onto the bridge. Like when Discovery docks and then like in one smooth motion, Saru blurps in front of Trina.
Saru.
If I lived 800 years in the future, I would never get used to this.
Yeah. It's very intense.
This is why I always prefer a text before a phone call.
Right.
Don't just call me. Text me to say you're going to call me.
Yeah. What's my phone doing? No.
Oh, God, this is an emergency.
Yeah. And then Burnham gets to look at the like slowed down footage of the Romulan diary, which is about as much like information density as a children's book. Like each page is like the knowledge contained in this diary. Next page is unbelievably important. Next page. And will change the way we understand the galaxy forever. Next page. I really can't overstate how much knowledge is in this book. Next page.
This page intentionally left blank. Next page. The last page, if looked at by Romulans, will make every Romulan want to kill themselves. And it's like... Stamets like bashes his own head with a rock.
Burnham spots a planet that she thinks she recognizes in there and then goes and confronts Kovich, who has run a holo in his office that is, I guess, a different planet with 2 moons that's in the Federation database. And he's just like going through these holos one by one.
Wrong planet, idiot.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems like she's kind of like out ahead of him now in terms of like knowing what's going on. And she's like, you got to like put me on the case. And he's like, no, you're off the case.
I gave you a chance to get the puzzle box and you blew it.
You blew it.
He really wants to keep this classified because it's been classified for hundreds of years.
I don't understand why Kovich is eating a sandwich in this scene. We've never seen him eat before.
Burnham pretty much forces her way in. So he's like, okay, you're on the mission. Here is a very brief recap of beloved season 6 Star Trek The Next Generation episode, The Chase.
Don't you love it when Star Trek watches Star Trek in an episode of Star Trek?
It rules every time.
It's the best.
You ever watch Star Trek?
I think that it was just like one of the like emails from Paramount that, you know, because we get screeners, we are sort of agreeing to press embargoes about when we release our reviews of these episodes. And one of the emails said, like, don't tell anybody that there's something to do with the TNG episode, The Chase, in the first episode. And I happened to read that before I watched this. So I actually did rewatch the TNG episode a few days ago just to like get my body ready.
Oh.
I forgot that it was Change Leader that played the part of the progenitor, the person that they find.
Oh, amazing. We'll have to link to that episode of Greatest Gen in our show notes.
Yeah, and the loaf on the alien looks very much like Proto-Odo.
Mr. Bucket?
It's that same kind of like hollow eyes, like...
Does the progenitor have Nuck?
Oh, I don't remember. I feel like it was just kind of a shift dress or something.
You could call their Nuck progenitals.
You sure could.
Good episode?
It is a good episode. It's that one where they like find in... It's like Dr. Galen, Picard's old archaeology teacher, kind of offers Picard a whole new career as an archaeologist, but he'd have to walk away from Starfleet to do it. But, you know, through a bunch of stuff that happens, they wind up having to just do the mission by themselves because Galen gets murdered. And they find that all of the DNA of all of the humanoid species in the galaxy have little pieces of code that if you put them all together, create a program that shows you this person, the progenitor, and it's like a monument to their having existed, but also like they panspermied all the like sentient life forms that would become humanoids eventually.
All the scientists and doctors here had a real problem with Velik, just like kind of overstaying his welcome. Like he was just always kind of around.
Yeah.
Too long.
So Dr. Valek found the progenitor's life-designing technology, and that's what the chase is going to be about this season, is getting this technology so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And currently, Maul and Locke either have it or know where it is, or at the very least, I mean, like knowing what's in the book should be like enough, right? Like they should just go get the technology and vouchsafe it, right? We don't really need to chase Maul and Locke anymore, other than like put some cops on it or whatever. Like like obviously like they're bad because they killed Fred, but does it seem like they are like, gonna bioengineer a replacement species or something?
After a couple of days, if Dr. Velik has just appeared on Maul and Locke's ship, just unmoving, unwilling to leave, they're like ready to turn themselves in at that point. I give up.
Yeah.
This guy's just gonna stare at us?
We did a hard reset on all the systems on our ship, and he's still just how can a hologram still be here despite that?
It kind of feels like a Genesis device kind of situation, does it not?
A little bit, yeah. Although Genesis device that is not planetary scale, but galactic scale, maybe.
Exactly, yeah.
So they narrow it down that this tech is on a planet called Lyric. Michael Burnham has the job. Let's fly. Did you like this episode?
She'll always bring it home.
I'm glad to be back in Star Trek Discovery. I have great affection for the characters that I've been permitted to know on this show. I like Spider-Man Burnham. This is an aspect that kind of helps me enjoy the show a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's something about the dialogue in this show that kind of reads as open world video game exposition sometimes. Does that ever hit you? Sometimes there are moments of great emotional intensity that feel very real and lived in and good, and other times there are plot forwarding bouts of expository dialogue that feel unnatural and intentional in a way to forward story. That's hard. That's got to be so hard to deliver in a way that makes any sense, that feels real. And I think the tension, when one scene of one kind follows one scene of a different kind, it kind of makes for a rocky ride. And that was the effect that I got from this episode. I know we're trying to onboard the viewer back into this season's adventure.
Yeah, having come off of watching 10 pilots in a row for pilot season.
That is such an interesting point. We saw 10 examples of how to begin a science fiction story.
Right.
And how is it that in the 5th season of Discovery, that might slot in if we were ranking all the pilots during pilot season? Season 1 of episode 5 of Discovery is top 5.
Yeah.
And that's kind of faint praise.
Yeah. I have to say, I think a little warmer on this episode than you are. I really loved being back in this world and back with these characters, and the setup stuff didn't bump me as much. I think that the main thing that I didn't like about this episode was the death of Fred, because I liked Fred and I wanted more Fred stuff.
I mean, he might not be dead forever. They got his birdie.
And also I think not liking the death of Fred is exactly what that moment needed. I'm
betting it, Ben. Lock it in. Fred is waking back up.
Fred's coming back?
Yeah.
All I do is
bets.
no matter what.
Fred's back, baby!
Just Fred.
Fred. I am Fred.
It's a surprisingly old model.
Interesting. Spicy.
All right, Fred, what can you tell us about yourself?
I'm too sexy for my shirt.
Well, there's always two, so maybe there's a Ned or somebody that they could run into.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked this. I'm excited to see that this show has grown enough to just tell us what was in the box.
Yeah.
And
I like that too.
Not try to string us along to find out what the big mystery is going to be for 3 or 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they could do things to undo the goodwill that built in me. But so far, I'm very excited. And I'm excited we're going to get episode 2 quickly on the heels of this one. I think that as these air, episodes 1 and 2 will come out on the same day, and we are going to do our review of episode 2 of season 5 on Tuesday.
Oh, amazing.
Following the release of this episode. So
how about that?
This episode will come out on a Friday, and we will have another one out on a Tuesday, and then another one that Friday. So look forward to that. You know, that's the kind of thing that's enabled by our great success in the Max Fund Drive. So I want to say thanks to everyone that stepped up and supported during that.
Boy, what a drive this year. Really filled with gratitude for all the support we got during it. Really de-stresses the rest of the year in a way that I know I could use. And
yeah.
I hope you feel the same.
I certainly do. Do you want to go check in on our Priority 1 inbox and see what's going on in there?
Oh, yeah. I think I see them cruising on a little dirt bike that they just rented.
Oh, boy.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Ben, our first Priority 1 message is of a personal nature. It is from Ryan from Sacktown, and it is to Ben and Adam. That message goes like this. Just a quick message to say thank you guys for keeping the show on during the off-season and landing on a cool, fun idea to cover the gap between new Trek shows. I was planning to ask for Babylon 5, but considering that by the time this airs you will already have covered the pilot, I will try pitching you on Hannibal or Farscape.
Whoa.
Thanks again. So this was obviously a P1 sent before pilot season had ended. Hope Ryan from Sacktown enjoyed our coverage of the Farscape pilot. Hannibal, huh? The TV show Hannibal?
Isn't that set in the, Silence of the Lambs-averse?
Yeah.
Hannibal?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, I guess I don't think of that as a sci-fi pilot, but I've never seen the show, so I could totally be wrong. I mean, we did cover Farscape.
Yeah.
What an interesting aspect of pilot season was watching people on social media get mad at us for not having covered a pilot yet, and knowing that we had already recorded the episode about that pilot, but not wanting to reveal it. I didn't ever go in and reply to anybody, but people are they didn't cover Farscape or Battlestar. That was the one I wanted. It's just wait, we're doing a lot of episodes.
The thing that's great about social media is everyone is so willing to talk a bunch of shit about what they think they might know and then never retract that thing they said based on the new information that was the reason for the thing.
Those posts are still up.
Yeah.
We're aware of them. We're keeping track.
Yeah.
Adam, our next P1 here is from the Atreides PR team, and it is to Adam and Ben, the hosts, and goes like this. I just watched David Lynch's 1984 masterpiece, Dune, and submit it for the Greatest Trek treatment. It is in the Star Trek family, with 5 of the main cast crossing over. It includes a pre-TNG P-Stew, carrying a pug into battle, and Brad Dourif doing hand stuff. Is it a good movie? Not exactly, but it is incredible.
I love that movie score. And I love Battle Pug.
I liked Battle Pug a lot. I really hope somebody gets their hands on Denis Villeneuve's Dune movies without the score in them so that they can then just go put the Toto score on the way it should be.
The Toto score fucking rules.
The one thing that you could really do to punch up the Denis Villeneuve Dunes would be to use the Toto score.
I'm thinking of that score and I'm getting the chills right now. That's how good it is.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a movie that's a lot of fun. There might be a revisit of it in our future. We did cover it on another podcast long ago, but I think that's a bonus feed app that you'd probably have to go hunt for. Who knows if that's even available to people at this point. But yeah, I love that movie. I one time bought a newspaper because there was a free DVD of Dune in the package with the newspaper.
What kind of newspaper was giving away DVDs?
It was when I was doing my study abroad in Ireland, and yeah, I guess Sunday newspapers in the UK and Ireland often have a prize.
You know what? More newspapers should do that.
Yeah,
like today.
It gets you to buy the special cereal at the grocery store. It'll get me to buy a newspaper, you know?
Yeah.
I bought a bunch of newspapers for the DVD in them.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, well, thanks to Ryan from Sacktown and the Atreides PR team. If you'd like to get a P1 on the show, it is MaximumFun.org/Jumbotron. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Ben.
What's that, Adam?
Did you discover yourself a character from this episode that reminded you of Edward Larkin?
Edward Larkin! I did. So the segment on the show where we talk about the character doing the silliest thing or the character that leapt out at us for whatever reason. And there was an extra on the elevator when Book came aboard the ship. And, you know, you can cut the tension with a knife in the scene where Burnham and Book are walking through the ship. And I kind of feel like everybody on the Discovery has got to know about this situation. Like, Book was aboard. His ship was in the cargo bay for a long time, and he was the captain's boyfriend for a long time, and now he's not there because he turned on the captain and did something that she thought was very bad and hasn't been there. So this poor innocent crew member is just like taking the elevator one day, and the captain and Book get on board.
Uh-oh.
I thought the extra did a good job, like giving some subtle hints at how awkward this moment has got to be for that character. So that extra in the elevator was my Edward Larkin for this episode. How about you?
That's got to be a way that you're in danger at any given moment, serving on a starship.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people could beam into the elevator and make it awkward on this starship.
For me, I love the evolution of Admiral Dad, who is a little too enthusiastic to talk to his son about masturbation. Think about when you first met him. Seemed hardened, taciturn, haunted. He's gotten his family back. I don't know if we've ever seen them. Like, kind of a big deal was made about, like...
Well, they left again after he tried to have the talk with his son.
He'd give anything to rent sand dune bikes with his kids. But the day is long past. I love what he's...
Dad, at family dinners, can you not bring up how the replicators work?
I just love what he's become. He has become an instrument in the story whose utility is like getting over the administrative block that you need to. Like where there is a Kovich that is the barrier, or a Kovich type,
right.
There's the Admiral ready to help. And this is an evolution of that character in a way that I really like. I love how chill he is. He is like, he's a substitute teacher that's so cool that you still think about that substitute teacher sometimes, even though high school was 25 years in the past, you know? Like, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. Man, I hope he's all right somewhere.
He really inspired a love of poetry in me.
Yeah.
Anyways.
The reason I got an E.E. Cummings book on my shelf.
Oh man, good Edward Larkin, Adam. I think it's time to close out the show. I think we just have one segment left, and that is the Warning Bois segment. You want to hit the people with a Warning Bois?
Yeah, real quick one this time, Ben.
Prepare a buoy and launch it when ready.
Warning buoys.
An emergency buoy. A warning buoy.
This one comes from Apple Podcasts. It's a 5-star review.
Hey, thanks.
Headline is Trek humor, the greatest. Here's the message. Only the greatest generation can match greatest Trek. A true delight. Ben and Adam are awesome. That's it. That's all you have to say. When we ask for reviews of the show and when we say how important they are, we're not asking for a fucking novel. 5 stars and a couple of sentences like this from Paul Clark, DC.
Yeah.
And the job is done. Thanks, Paul Clark, DC.
Thank you so much to everyone that leaves a nice review or talks on social media about the show. Helps us rise in the algo and hopefully catch somebody's attention that is out there looking for a new podcast to get into. Helping us grow the show is a great way to help ensure future episodes. So we really appreciate it.
You don't need to watch a previously on reel to understand what Greatest Trek is about. If you got a buddy that's just starting to watch Discovery, now's the time. Connect them to this episode. Let's get it going.
Get them into it. We are going to leave it with Wynde from here. So to everyone listening, thanks for waiting it out with us through a long Star Trek drought. We're so glad to be back in Star Trek. So excited about this season of Discovery and everything ahead. And we'll toss the keys to the pod car to Wynde right now.
Catch!
Greatest Trek is an Uxbridge Shimoda podcast on the Maximum Fun Network. It's hosted by Ben Harrison and Adam Pranica, and it's produced and edited by Wynde Priddy. Next week on Tuesday, Ben and Adam will be back with coverage of Episode 2, which is already out on Paramount+. It's called Under the Twin Moons, and then they'll be back on Friday next week with coverage of Episode 3. Thanks so much for everyone's support during Max Fun Drive. It's not too late to set up a membership if you want to do that. MaximumFun.org/join, and we really appreciate your support. Thanks to Adam Ragusia, who composed the theme music for Greatest Trek. Check out what he's up to on YouTube by searching for Adam Ragusia. Thanks to Nick Ditmore for creating the show art, and thanks to Bill Tilley and Rob Adler for all their work managing the various social media pages. Make sure you're subscribed to the Greatest Trek YouTube channel and use the hashtag Greatest Trek when you post about the show online. We appreciate your 5-star ratings and reviews, and when you recommend the show to someone that you know. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Greatest Trek.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported directly by you.